Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to replace your front coil springs in your car or truck. This truck here is a 1990 Ford Bronco, and it has the four-wheel drive twin traction beam front suspension, but this technique will also work on the twin I-beam front suspension as well. So let's get started. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is jack up your truck. Now make sure to use jack stands and secure your vehicle. Next, you're going to want to remove your wheel. Now this unit here has the quad shock setup, which means it has two shocks on either side. Again, this process will be very similar to even the one that only has the one shock setup. Now what we're going to do next is we have to actually remove the bottom shock mount so we can allow the axle to rest further down and be able to remove the spring. So let's get removing those shocks. Let's remove the main shock first. Now on the quad shock setup, you might actually have to remove the front auxiliary shock altogether. I tried just removing it from the bottom, but it just actually won't come out. So you're going to have to remove it completely, and then you'll be able to drop this all the way down. Now with the shock out, remove the lower sway bar bolt. You're going to want to disconnect the sway bar again so this whole assembly can drop as far down as possible. Now we can remove the top spring retaining bolt. Make sure to hold on to this bracket so it doesn't fall down. And now slowly let down the jack. Now you can see the spring is pretty loose. If you just give it a good jiggle, it should actually just pop out. Just like that. Now this is my preferred method of removing springs. I like to let the suspension pretty much fall all the way down instead of using spring compressors, since the spring compressors actually have been known to warp or damage a spring. So I like to just relieve the suspension as much as possible and just pop out the springs. Now there's a massive nut holding the coil spring at the bottom. It's a size 1 1/8. You're going to have to use extensions to go all the way up to the top of the coil to be able to loosen up this nut. Unless you've got a wrench that you can go in through here and go to town with it. And you're going to have to give it some force to be able to crack it loose. Once it's loose, just use a ratchet and take it out. Remove the washer. And finally, remove the coil spring. Now the reason that you'll be changing your coil springs, generally they're either rusted out, broken, or sagging after 30 years being on the vehicle. Now in my case, my coil springs were surprisingly in really good shape, and they are original to the vehicle. But I chose to go with an OEM coil spring that is a progressive rate spring. The reason why I'm changing the coil springs out is because I wanted a softer ride, and the progressive rate springs like these new ones here will give you a much softer ride, but not too soft. It'll be right in the middle between firm and soft. It'll be much more comfortable than the jarring ride these old linear springs will give you. So I do recommend these coil springs. They're made by Moog. They're part number CC820, and you can tell these are the exact same factory height as the original springs. If you wanted to actually lift your truck and kind of keep an OEM style factory ride, you can actually get the Moog CC822 or the CC824, and they will actually lift your truck about 2 inches, maybe even 3, I've heard, but probably shoot for more of like a 2-inch lift. So let's go pop these bad boys in. Now another thing I want to mention before you install your new coil springs is to actually make sure you replace your coil spring isolator. Now unfortunately I couldn't actually find one locally or even online for that matter for this project, so I'm actually going to have to reuse these original ones. They're not that bad of shape. They are pretty worn though, so I'm probably going to replace them later. I'll list the part number so you guys can make sure you get them. They come in either red or black, so you can choose which ones you need. Now make sure also you remove the coil spring seat, clean it up real good, and then reinstall it. Now I'm not trying to win any awards, so you don't really have to clean it up too much. Just give it a good wipe down, get all the dirt and debris out of this area. Install your isolator, make sure to get a new one. Install your new coil spring. Insert the washer and tighten the nut. Now give the suspension a good jiggle and pop it in. Now jack up the suspension. And install the lower sway bar bolt. Install the auxiliary shock. Install the top coil spring mount. Install the primary shock bolt. And lastly, install your wheel. Remove your jack stand. Lower your truck. Alright guys, that's a wrap. The coil springs are in. It looks good. It actually picked up my truck about a ½ an inch over the original coil springs. Now that could be due to the springs themselves need to be settled a little bit, or the original springs were sagging after all, since it is a 30-year-old truck. But that really does it for this video guys. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.